Hey everybody, welcome to Love Marlene 411. And it's time for the sip and chat. This is the very first sip and chat, and I really wanted this to be a discussion. So I'm come on camera for a little bit while we talk about this a little bit. Let me remove this banner. Yeah. Hey everybody, welcome to Love Marlene 411. Another live, another week. I wanted to cover this topic. Um, when did you start liking yourself? But before then, welcome. I hope you came in with your drink. I'm not doing anything crazy, no expensive drink or alcohol tonight. It's just hot tea. So I'm just sipping on my tea. A little bit of a tummy ache, a little bit from earlier. But anyways, that's FYI. I just wanted to come in and talk about this conversation. So we're all cozy over here. If it's your first time here at Love Marlene 411, we just we sip and we chat and we talk. So now I can go back to turning my camera on and putting the overlay up while we have the discussion. And I'm going to put the invite link here in the chat for anyone who would love to join in on this discussion and chat. So today's sip and chat is all about um, liking myself. For myself personally, it took me my road to liking myself. It took a lot. It took a lot for me to like myself because I wasn't the type of person that, number one, the environment that I grew up in, not saying like I didn't have the worst parents, it's nothing like that, but they weren't the type of parents that were available to support me emotionally and mentally. Yes, they supported me financially and physically, but when it came to my emotional and my mental health, no, I didn't get that type of support from my parents. Hey, Realist One, welcome. How are you doing? Um, I didn't grow up having that type of vibe um, with my parents or even with any of my siblings. I don't think any of us did. I don't think I've ever asked them that, but I didn't grow up having the type of environment where I felt very comfortable to voice to voice how I was feeling. And I think for a long time, from the time I was probably as young as maybe 6 years old, I always had some like feelings of worthlessness. I never really felt like much of anybody because I think it's the things that, my parents would say or other people in my family would say. Like, I don't know why back in the day, there didn't used to be a lot of positivity spread out, but I definitely didn't grow up in that environment. You were always told that you think you're better, you think, and they would say things like you're ugly. So that did a lot to, for your mental. It did a lot for your emotional. So many things. It developed so many things within us, and I don't think that parents, well, I can't say all parents, but I don't think some parents really understand what they're doing when they do things like that, when they say things like that. Like, you have to be really careful of the conversations that you have with children. Hey Lisa, how are you? Welcome. You have to be really careful of the conversations that you have with your children, or even if it's not your children, even if it's your nieces, your nephews, your cousin, or you work in that type of environment where you're around kids. You have to be careful what you say. And I remember from a very young age, I always felt I always felt like nobody. To be completely honest, I always felt like, my mom used to, I remember vivid memories of hearing, why don't you try to be like your sister or your brother? So I always had that kind of feeling like I wasn't good enough. I always felt like I was trash, basically. I know it doesn't sound good, but it's just what it was. And you, there was no conversations about it. Nobody talked about things. Everybody stuffed everything how they were feeling inside. It wasn't really like a safe environment to open up and to talk about how you were feeling, because you just, no audio. You can't hear me. Can you hear me, realist one? Oh, disregard. Okay. Um, I was wondering to myself, how come how come my family doesn't love me? How come I'm never good enough? And it really messed up my mind. Oh, you can hear. Okay, good. Um, I it really messed up my mind for a really long time, and we don't really understand the impact of it until you start being like in romantic relationships from your teen years till your 20s. The things that happen to you in your childhood, it pours all the way into your teen years and your adulthood. Hey, puzzle pieces, how are you? Welcome. You can hear? Okay. I hope you can hear now, Lisa. Welcome, puzzle pieces. Yeah, because for me, it was like I went through so many things, and you guys are going to be hearing about it because I'm very open to share things that happened to me from my childhood. But I think from a very young age, I think from the age of probably my earliest feeling, a feeling like nobody, was probably the age of 6. And when I was 6 and they had like a picture day, and everybody would wear their outfit, and I remember feeling like less than nothing because, oh, don't you, what do you think you're going to wear that dress for? You won't look good in it. And I remember feeling like even less than a speck of dirt. I felt so insignificant, but I didn't know how to say it because I was just a little kid. I was only 6 years old at the time, and at 6 years old, I already had started to hate myself, and that's a really young age to start that process. And we really don't, but not like on purpose, we don't on purpose want to start hating ourselves. And these are the kind of conversations that I feel like it's really important to have these conversations and to say these things, because if you don't have this conversation and fix certain things, it really impacts you as you get older, as you get in relationships, as you get involved in whatever you do for work. Whatever happened to you in your childhood, it follows you your entire life. And I can say for myself that it really affected lots of relationships. Of course, you can't be a good friend. You can't be any good in a relationship. And you're a very angry individual. And there's a lot of angry people out here. And I mean women and I mean men, because we're like little girls and little boys, even though we are fully grown people. We've never been allowed to feel a certain way. We've never been able to reveal the things that we've been through without feeling judged. And I think that that was my thing, is anytime I wanted to talk about, things that happen, I was always told to let it go. We don't have to talk about those things. Like, that happened a long time ago. let it go. But if you don't talk about it, you have to continue to process it into your mind. And I think it started at the around the age of 6 is when I really started to hate myself, because I saw my older siblings and they were much, taller than me, you know. And of course, for me, I was always told that they were more beautiful than me. They looked nicer. They had more intelligence. So from about 6 years old, I felt very unwanted, and I think that's where my feelings of worthlessness started at 6 years old. Because I remember isolating myself from other kids in my class and not really wanting to have friends and hang out. I would just go from school to home and be in my room by myself, stay in my little closet and play with my dolls and stuffed animals, and had my own invisible little world. But I guess I put the link in the chat if anybody is interested in adding something to this discussion. But I guess I want to start off by saying, when did you start liking yourself? Um, I think I had to go in reverse. From I had to do a lot of rewinding from the age that I was when I started therapy, and go all the way back to 6 years old, and undo a lot of the pain, undo a lot of the everything, all the times where you felt stupid and unloved and unseen, and there was no compassion. You really do have to put in some time to work on yourself, because if you don't, I the whole thing is, we don't want to say that things happened to us, but it really did. We don't want to say that we've been hurt, we've been taken advantage of, we've been used, we've been mistreated, disrespected, all of it, the whole gamut. And I had to realize that for myself, that I really was. And I had to stop worrying about how other people perceived me, and start thinking about how do I view myself. And if I don't like the way I look at myself, then that's going to ruin my whole life. I never would let myself be happy. I would never let myself have a good friend, or if I was in a relationship and the relationship would start to go good, I would do something to sabotage the relationship, to make the relationship break up. Because I was always told, nobody would ever want me, nobody would ever like me. I'm not a good friend. I'm not as smart. I'm not as good looking. I'm not as intelligent. I'm not a lot of things as my siblings, as other people that I see. And I just, I never have understood that. How could somebody be so cruel to their own children? And everybody has a different situation. Maybe some people don't have it to that severity, but it's very important to talk about this, because it leaves a very deep impact, for what you do with your life, for what you think you can do, what you can be, the friends you choose, who you get involved in relationships with. Because if you don't feel that you deserve wonderful friends and to be treated well and all of those things, you'll find a way to get less than you deserve. You'll settle for the bottom of the barrel. Uh, Puzzle Pieces says, I didn't like being a girl. I always wanted to be a boy. Oh, yeah, go get your drink and I'll come up and elaborate. Okay. So, so that's how it started for me. I had to go and rewind. I had to go and rewind and to start from the age that I was when I started therapy and start, slowly going back in time and working on my inner child and letting myself just be, who I was, like learning to like the small things about myself, the things that I can't change. Like there's certain things that you can't change about yourself. You can't change your height, you can't change, unless you do like plastic surgery or something, but you can't change the way, your face is. Um, you can all, but you can always choose to improve your abilities, how you choose to look at your life and your attitude. And I think that's one of the things that I had to say to myself. I may not be able to change what happened to me, how other people treated me, but I got to start to look at myself in the mirror and like the person that's looking back at me. Because just think about it, it's years and years of your self-esteem being, in the toilet, like feeling like nothing. So of course that means that you're going to settle in relationships. You're going to put up with foolishness. You're going to let people talk to you all kinds of ways because you don't feel like you're nothing. You don't feel like you're anybody. And once I started to work on myself and find out like what I like, what I'm interested in, that I don't have to do things to make other people happy. I have to start to do things uh, um, that I personally like. So I think it's one of those things I had to get to know me. Um, who was I? And I believe the majority of people, I would say probably over 90% of the population of the entire world, they never take time to find out who they really are because life happens and they just get busy into working, all like their whole life is just work, sleep, and eat. And they don't give themselves any time to think about anything. And that's the reason why they fill their life with music, with lots of people, with a lot of noise, so that they don't have any quiet time to reflect. And that's one of the things that I had to do is to take some quiet time and reflect on myself and to not evaluate myself according to what um, my parents had said I was, not according to what my siblings say I was, not who uh, the relationships that I've had in the past. None of that. I had to look at myself in the mirror and actually learn to be my own friend. And I think that's something that the most people never do. Look at themselves in the mirror and say, you're pretty cool. Like I like you. And that's what I started to do. I started to have conversations with myself. I learned to reassure myself. I stopped letting the fears and the worries and the projections of other people become mine. You'll never believe how many things that you were told from you were young, things that you shouldn't do, and it becomes your value system. So I had to start going back in time and asking myself, what really do you want? What really do you like? What really are you about? What do you want further from your life? Who do you want to be in the next 5 years? And now what are you going to do to make that happen? Those sort of conversations that um, you have to have if you actually want to start proving to yourself that, like, oh, I actually like you. I actually like myself. And I can just say that uh, it wasn't until about that age, probably 20, I would say 24 years old, before it was the first time ever in my life where I went into the store and I actually bought something that I normally would never buy, like put on something that would like show some skin, and I could look at myself and to say that I think I look beautiful today. And I remember smiling at myself and actually believing it. A lot of times we put on clothes and we put on hair, you put on makeup, you do nails, you do all of these things, as women, to either attract attention, to be seen as a certain way as a woman. But for the first time in my life, I remember looking at myself and liking how I looked. And I think that's what it started. That's where my confidence started at the age of 24. And I feel really sad for a lot of young women, not only young women, young men too, because most of the time they never let themselves feel that, they never let themselves go through all of those things because they don't want to face that they were unloved, that that they weren't loved, and they weren't seen, and certain things happened to them. But I had to learn to not evaluate myself based on others. I think that's an important thing. Hey Tamika, how are you doing? That was really important for me, to let myself just have those times and let myself have those moments to just think, however I think about myself, and to not get myself wrapped up in the past. And I was thinking about that the other day, about how much that I've grown as a woman. And shout out to all you ladies and you gentlemen who are putting in the work to actually work on yourself, and to want to improve and be better. Hey Nexie.
Hola, Marlene.
Mhm.
How are you? Hi,
Good,
chat.
good, good.
So what was the question again?
Okay, so the question is, when did you start liking yourself?
Okay, I think I'm gonna have to start with when I started disliking myself so that I can get to the liking part. Is that okay?
Well, that's the same thing I did. I started with disliking too. Yeah.
Okay, thank you. I'm sorry. Is the howling and the wolf I have here in the house, and I'm gonna try to stay in course, but if I have to mute, please forgive me.
Oh,
Just understand that.
it's all good.
I don't want you to run out the door thinking there is an owl, a wolf over here in this household. Okay, so um, I think that the first time that I remember as a child disliking, maybe not per se the physical part of me, because at that point you're too little to understand what beauty is. You know what I mean? I started disliking, I guess, the environment or the situation that I was when I was like 6 years old. Where I'm from is a very small country, right? Divorce is very frowned upon. People look at you different. And I came in, I was living in, I was born there and everything, but at that time, from the age of 5 on, I lived in a one parent household, which was something that was not common in those days, right? So I started disliking me because for some reason in my young little mind, I thought that it was probably my fault, that maybe there was something wrong with me because my mom left. So I thought it was probably because of me or something that happened in my house. So I started disliking myself for only having the one parent. My father was an amazing dad, loving, caring, hardworking. But kids will make fun of me, right? my little friends, and a lot of the parents in the beginning of a lot of times wouldn't allow them to play with me because, of the situation that my family was in. So at that point, when I will go to their household, I mean, in front of their house and try to call them to play, the parents will not allow them. Say, no, just go away. He can come play right now, or she can come play right now. So I would have to either play by myself or go back home, but I didn't know the reason why. And I remember I started not wanting to go out and play anymore, or I will hear adults sometimes making comments that I didn't understand, but they were about my family. And so at that point, I didn't like myself very much. I didn't want to go out to play. I didn't want to be a kid. I wanted to be a boy. That's when wanting to be a boy started. Because my brothers, they were older, they were so cool. They didn't care what people say, and people treated them differently than they treated me. Do, I mean, am I making myself clear?
Yeah,
Am I making sense? Am I making sense? Yeah.
yeah, I
Okay. Okay.
understand you completely.
Okay.
Hmm.
So people would treat them differently, and they were so cool. They didn't care, and so I thought that if I was a boy, right, um, those people would not say no to me when it came to play with my little friends and stuff like that. So there was one time I was my best friend, which was the only like his birthday is 6 days before mine, and his mom and my mom were friends. So I was okay to play with him. She didn't mind if I play with him all day or whatever. So I remember my friend got to go with his dad to his workplace. And his dad used to work in electronics, fixing radios and stuff like that. I was never like a girly girl, Marlene, I'm sorry, but playing with dolls, it was so boring for me. I know you like them, sorry. But I never got the point of playing with a plastic doll. Anyway, so I never liked dolls. I always took their heads off, or anyway, not the point. So my friend, his dad took him to work, and he learned he helped his dad how to fix a radio, a couple of radios and stuff like that. And I like things like that. So that's when my desire to become a boy came. That I wanted to be cool. I wanted people not to look at me differently because I came from like I said, then I didn't know it was a one parent household. I didn't know what that meant, right? But I thought that if I was a boy, people would not discriminate against me for not having a mom. And I started developing a lot of like an eating disorder. Like I couldn't. I guess I was so stressed out from everything that I started not eating like the 3 meals a day that you're supposed to have or more, right? I started not wanting to eat, and I started losing a lot of weight, a lot of weight, and I started getting very, very sick. And my dad, from seeing all of that, decided to send me to my sister's house because she was already married at this point, and to see if if she could help him, like bring me back to health. But the whole point going over to my sister was, I thought maybe if I'm over there, I can find like someone that can turn me into a boy, so that
Mm.
I'm sorry, I was 6, Marlene. I'm sorry, so that nobody will hurt me again, nobody will make me feel less. And from that day on, I carried that, you know, I don't know, like I never felt good enough, like for anybody, friends or folks or anybody. Like I always felt like I had to do extra for people to like me because of my situation.
Yep. I find that it's so interesting that you said that it started for you at 6 because that's when it started for me. And I was like, hmm. So I'm wondering how many young girls and young boys, they start to have those type of issues around 6, but you really don't know how to explain, how to communicate what is going on with you, what you're thinking, what you're dealing with you. You wanted to be a boy. With me, I was already thinking like I hated myself.
Yeah, you get those feelings too, but the problem is also, Marlene, that I found as I went through, the healing of my soul, healing of myself, I understood that at the same time we don't have anyone to talk to us about what's going on, right? Everything was hush hush. You cannot say things like that. Feelings, what is that? Put them away. What's wrong with you? Why are you having feelings? Or what is the need of you to talk about things like that? You just, get over it. That's who you are, and that's it. That's exactly what they tell you, right? You don't have anyone that you can come home and cry to, and that person grabs you and explains to you why, these people are acting that way. It has nothing to do with you. It has to do with us adults, right? The people don't take the time to do that to us. And I think that is important, that we give this message out, to people, that no matter how small the child is, and I mean from 5 on, they understand. And you need to find a way to explain to them
Your mic went out for a second, Nexie.
happening, and try to understand. Because the boy thing, it wasn't just about the fact that my brothers were cool and everything, but I also, like, I saw the opportunities they had, how much they got away with, and that they could work on super cool things, like, worked on the pier, or worked on boats, or fixing radios, TVs, and all those things that I love doing, but I wasn't a boy to do. So it was a combination of many things that make me want to see if, when I went to my sisters, somebody could turn me into a boy, so that I could, have, I don't know, feel better about myself, feel less depressed, that
I
I was a child bouncing back and forth. Like, I don't know. It was just, that's what it is, realist.
Yeah. Yeah. So I think for the majority of us, whether male or female, it's about self-acceptance. And
Hmm.
a lot of times we don't know what that term means until we get to be much older, how important that is. But if you're not, if you don't have the type of parents that know about that culture, and are open, to helping you to grow. See, in a family, it takes somebody in that family to like really love themselves, to be able to pour that into other children, to tell them, you're smart and you can do things, and look at you and you're so beautiful. That does so much to a kid's self-esteem.
Yeah, exactly. But I don't know if this happened with you as well. Is that I started losing my voice, and I don't mean as I didn't speak anymore. What I mean about that is that I started um, inner thinking rather than voicing out my feelings.
Mhm.
I was always trying to make sense of them by myself, and talking to myself inside. I wasn't really, my dad was very loving. My siblings, my sisters were amazing moms to me as well. But I, I, I started being like more recluse, more guarded, more trying to solve everything by myself. And every time I wanted to open up about something, the rejection, or if my friend will come over to ask me to play or whatever, that rejection of before will stop me from. And I started pushing people away. I started not allowing anyone near me, so that they wouldn't hurt me like that anymore. And I don't even know if it was I didn't know, I'm sorry, that it was such a big hurt, such a big deal, until I started, therapy. I started working. that particular part of my life.
Yeah, that's the whole thing about it, is that you really don't know how I don't like to say it like this, but that's what it is. You really don't know how messed up you are until when you start thinking about certain things, or when you start getting back what you do to somebody else, and you're like, I do that. So that's not good. Like, no, really, when you start learning how to be accountable and communicating, you think about all the years when you didn't communicate, when you stuffed everything inside, and all of that is so unhealthy. But we sometimes just don't know any better. We don't know how to say it. And I remember for years feeling so frustrated because I wanted to say something, but when you are around people who don't communicate, how do you learn to start communicating? And that was my problem.
Yeah, exactly. And at the same time, Marlene, that that remember we were six, right, or five or six. I know that when the first time I felt, and this is what I should have said in the beginning, the first time I felt pain in my heart of maybe they have rejected me playing with them before, or they have said things about it before, but I was, maybe it didn't register on me the way it registered at that age. But from that day, from that on, and this is where, I think we're gonna agree too, is that from that is when you start self-hating, not liking yourself, no matter how uh, some people will say, oh my god, you're so cute, or you look, really good on that, or you should wear that color. You don't see it, right? You
Hmm.
don't see it. Now, you mentioned something about pictures taken at school. For me was, everybody was dressed up, in their Sunday's best, right? The moms had taken their time to put the kids with the girls with the little bows, and the little kids with the bow ties and everything. And
Hmm.
I'm wearing, purple and yellow. And there's my hair's all over the place because there was nobody to do that for me. You know what I mean? My dad didn't know that he was supposed to like do things like that. So my pictures, when I used to have to take the yearly picture for my school ID and stuff like that, I'm always disheveled because, I didn't have anyone that was going to be able to keep track of those days. And so I started seeing ugly, 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 ugly all the way. And it was coming from the inside out.
Hmm. Yeah. And you start having the conversation. You don't say it to anybody, but it's like sometimes the things that you don't say are speaking the loudest. And that's what I think when I started to get older, why you start developing very toxic habits. Like, I didn't start, but I understand why people start doing like the drugs and the
Yeah,
drinking and all kinds of substances and very like addictive things, like getting hooked on certain stuff, because you have to do something to cover up what you have been through, and what to deal with it, so that you can keep going, because it's like life is like you got to keep going no matter what. But how do you keep going when you're just a shell of a human being?
exactly. And also, you start from that young age to doubt anything that you're like, that you can do something. You can do that, no problem. The confidence is not there. You're smart, you can do it, right? And you can, but you start sabotaging that reassurance that you already have for being maybe a bright student, or how can I say, a hardworking person. So you yourself make yourself even more uncomfortable from thinking, I mean, who's going to give it to me? And then you see somebody else dressed, a little bit better for you on that interview, or, you know what I mean? And you start saying, oh, she's going to get it. She looks better than me. She does this, even though you have more qualifications. So that follows you throughout your life unless you work on yourself.
Mm-hmm.
unless you seek the help you need, the therapy that you need. And I'm gonna say this, for me, a lot of times you don't think you need it. You've gone through life and got by with everything. Nobody has noticed how broken you are, that you don't even think you need it. As you get older, you're like, I'm fine. I already went through so much. Oh, I'm fine. I got my feelings settled. I have a family. I mean, I
Mm-hmm.
have kids. What do you mean I need help?
Yeah, you see, you put on this big tough persona to other people, and you tell everybody that you're okay, and inside you're dying inside. You're very miserable, you're unhappy, you're angry, and it reflects in your relationships, and how you talk to other people, how you let people treat you, but you just don't know how to change what you've always done. I think that's what is for me. Like, how do you stop um, acting toxic when your whole environment, your thinking, everything is toxic? How do you stop that? So that's what I had to do for myself. I had to just tell myself I need somebody to help me because I don't know how to fix myself.
Yeah, and that is the difference. You see, for me, I was so numb, Marlene. I was so numb from all that trauma and all that pain, because it doesn't just stop. It doesn't just, okay, that happened when you were little, when you were 5, 6, 7, 8, and now that you're older, that was in the past, so it's not going to follow you.
Mhm. It does. It really does.
What I was noticing, I didn't feel pretty. I didn't feel comfortable on my body, on myself at all. I was very self-conscious on everything that I did, but personally, I never felt like I was beautiful. Like, I was like, like, wow, you look so hot on that. And I'll be like, is he or she making fun of me, or does this really looks nice, right?
Mm-hmm.
All those things follow you. They don't go away. Now, for me, I was so toxic, because it is a toxicity that you have inside, and so ruined and so gone, that I didn't feel the need to get help. I always saw it because, in my Hispanic background, when you say, I'm going to go to a psychologist, oh my gosh, she's crazy. She's going to
Mm-hmm.
have to be committed. There's something wrong with her. Her whole family is probably crazy. There's a stigma put on you if you seek help. So it's never mentioned. It's never talked about. It's never how can I an option for you.
Mm-hmm.
Back home. Because it will leave a scar on you. It will leave like one of those what is it, the scarlet letter. It will leave you
Yep.
marked like that. It's a taboo. Like, oh my God, don't date her, or she's not good marriage material because she went to a psychologist or a psychiatrist, whatever it is that you need. So a lot of us grow up thinking that that's not an option for us. And I was okay with that, like, I'm already fixed. I mean, seriously, I have a family. Like I said, I'm married. I'm not broken. That
Mm-hmm.
doesn't affect me, until I started seeing that nobody, that if I lost a friend or gained a friend, it didn't make a difference. That if I spoke to family members that were important to me and they stopped talking to me, it didn't bother me. And I started thinking on something that somebody said to me. It's funny. I've known you for so long, and I've noticed that you are very happy with this person in your life, and then all of a sudden, if they don't talk to you, you move on like nothing. And this person said, don't you think that's weird? I'll be heartbroken if my best friend didn't talk to me anymore, or if my brother or sister, stopped talking to me for some reason. I think I'll be heartbroken, and nothing faces you. Nothing happens. And I stop and think and say, whoa, why is that? You know what I mean?
Yeah. I can say that too, Nextly, because For because when you're used to putting up like a wall to protect yourself, because when you are in that environment and you don't have anybody protecting you, you start to become like a tough person, because you got it. It was like, if nobody's going to protect me, I'm going to protect myself. So I had to start, allowing myself to say that it has nothing to do with me being tough. It's, I want to improve my relationships. I want to be happier. And I also want to stop pushing people away,
Mm-hmm.
because a lot of times we feel like we don't do anything, but we really are. You are really are hurting people. You really are stopping yourself from being happy, when you don't have the right tools, when you don't have the right mindset, when you blame everybody else and you are actually the problem. So yeah, all
Yeah,
those
when you are
things.
close. Yeah, when you are close, like when there's no room for anybody else to hurt you. And yeah,
Mhm.
mine was the Great Wall of China. That's how big mine was. But I didn't see it. You know what I mean? For me, it was easy to, okay, you don't talk to me, you don't want to talk to me? Okay, fine.
Yeah.
But then when that person said that, Marlene, it's like, I do that. And why is it that it doesn't bother me? You
Mhm.
know? And I started questioning, like, why doesn't it bother me? And that's when I started school, and then I said, you know what? I'm going to focus on psychology. I need to understand. And look at what I said. I'm going to focus on that. I need to understand them. I need to understand why is it that them leaving doesn't bother me, right?
Mhm.
I wasn't thinking even that it wasn't that they were leaving me. It was me. I will leave them before they got the chance to do that.
Mhm. Yep. I would, and my funny part is when I knew that I needed help, I knew something was wrong with me. Even going into therapy, I still wasn't at a healthy level. I told my therapist, "Hey, all I need you to do is give me the tools so that I can help them." Give me
I
the
just
tools, and then they'll be okay, and then I can move on with my life. And she says, "So you don't need any help?" um no. I What do I was kind of teetering, like I didn't know. I knew I needed help, but I didn't know what to ask for, because let's just be honest, if you come from a broken environment, people around you are open, they don't have conversations, they don't really care about one another, like you're basically just existing. And you get used to that coldness, you get used to being a cold person, like not showing emotion, you think that's normal. Oh yeah, I don't let anything affect me. You
hmm
tell yourself that, but it it's affecting you.
yeah, and me, um, I just needed the hours signed off, right? Because I had to, it was a requirement for me, right? Because I was starting my to work on my degree, so we have to have certain clinical hours worked on ourselves before we can practice on anybody else. So I was gonna go there, and I even told him, I said, so what are we gonna do? You want to get something to eat? You want to chit chat? So the hours can pass, and they can just sign, or how is it gonna work? I don't know. And he looked at me, Marlene. He just looked at me and smiled. He said, so all you need is the hours? That Yeah, yeah, yeah. I mean, that's what they
I
told
don't
me.
need anything. I'm good.
Oh, no, no, that exactly. Like, I was gonna, first of all, I was gonna sucker punch him, right? I was gonna tell him, "Ha, you thought you had something to fix here? Ha! I'm the most
Yeah.
perfect specimen walking this earth. There's nothing
Yeah.
wrong with me." So I said, do you want us to order some food and we can sit here? You can
Yeah, let's hang
maybe
out.
teach me how this is gonna, like, how do you do your job, so that when I start seeing people patients, I can, and he's just smiling, and I'm like, why are you like in my head? I'm like, why is he smiling? It's like, okay, so you're here. So what did your counselor, like what did he said to you? What? Oh, she just said that I had to take some counseling hours for myself, um, and that I had to do a certain amount, and you had to sign this paper every time we had a consultation. But I think she was doing it more so that I can learn from you.
You still didn't get it.
No, he said, "Oh, okay, that sounds perfect. So, where do you want to start? Do you want to start? Where do you want to start? Do you want to start like with your? Why don't I let you start? You know." He says, "No. Well, first, let me ask you. You have your parents. Are they still living?" And he started asking me all these questions. Right? I said, "Yeah, yeah. So you grew up. Do you have any siblings?" I said, yes. And that's when I volunteered. I said, yes, I grew up with just my dad. My mom left. I was little, and but she's not a problem. Like I don't care. She left when I was little, so I've never really needed her, or or that
Oh,
has never bothered me. So don't worry about that. And then I grew up with my 5 siblings, so 6 of us, and my dad raised us all. He said, and when I said, that doesn't bother me, she left and it's okay. He looked at me and started writing, and I'm like, what are you?
mm-hmm.
He was writing like I just heard like the paper was going like I even saw smoke coming out of it from the pen. And I was like, what are you writing? He's like, oh, I'm just taking notes, so we can go back. So I was like, I get it, so I can learn. And then he's like, okay, so you know what, let's do this. He says, okay, let's begin with your mom. Let's talk about your mom. I already told you.
Mm-hmm. There's
that's
nothing
not
there.
that's not my problem. She has her life. I have my own. I have kids, whatever. So we can skip that one.
Mm-hmm. Yep. We don't need to cover that at all.
Do you have another good but from there, I started going back in time, and then I started doing it on my own, like probably in like the second, third month that I saw that he was not just gonna sign those hours off. I was like, okay, I might as well do this, right? And first I was like, maybe he's trying to teach me that I'm gonna have reluctant patients as well, right? Like me. He's teaching me that that's what's gonna happen. So I started going on myself, and the questions he will like, the things that the questions that they make you work, or the work that you take home to do for yourself before the next session when they have something that they feel like you need more work on. So that he will give me
Mm-hmm.
homework, the little homework. And I started going back in time, and that's when I started realizing, that this is deeper than I thought, that it has affected me more than I would have known if I would have never gone and gotten the help that I needed. But the funny thing here is that some people go their entire life broken without getting any help. And I'm very grateful that I'm not one of them.
I'm really happy that you got some help, and I feel like this is a very important conversation and podcast to talk about, because I want to remove the all of that barrier, that wall that people put up when they talk about therapy and counseling or getting some help and talking to somebody. Nobody's perfect. Everybody's been through something.
The
Every single
stigma,
person.
right? The
Yeah.
stigma they have, they put on getting, because you know a lot of us take care of our bodies, right? We eat perfectly fine, lean and everything. We work out every day, make sure that we run at least 3 miles and work out and define our bodies, but we never work in our internal self. And that is something that on our minds, we never work on that. And until we get in tune with our hearts and minds, no matter what we do on the outside, it's not going to be able to be reflected if the inside is not worked out on, taken care of, the same way you do your outside.
Right. And that's why that it matters so much, and that's why I want to have a conversation. I'm hoping on one of these sipping chats that I can have something from the male perspective, because I can only speak from a female perspective. So I would love to hear the things that happen from a male perspective from the time that they're young. But I know for myself, um, I had to I had to know that something wasn't right, that it wasn't normal. Because when you're living in a toxic, dysfunctional environment, you get used to it,
Mm-hmm.
and you convince yourself that everything is okay when it's not, or when you have thoughts mentally when they're not. It's a lot of that, and I just want to spread some awareness with this conversation, asking, when did you start liking yourself? But I think it is true, you have to start with the dislike, and then you go into your liking yourself. And my hope is always, for this channel, to spread awareness and to spread love. That's the reason for the name Love Marlene 411. It's like a writing a letter to yourself, and having a conversation that maybe you won't tell anybody else but yourself. Maybe that's something that you have just with you and your higher power, or you and a friend, or just maybe just you and your journal. But it's important to have it.
And you being like, I don't like this word, but I'm going to have to say this sentence. That being said, no, what you said earlier is important because I have three brothers, right? They were older than I was when my mom left and the family unit just, disappeared. Um, I always thought that they had it easy, right? That they were not affected. As my brothers get older, now I see how much it did affect them, how damaged they are as well. But because they haven't gotten the help, that they need, they still going through that. They still that 15, 17, 19-year old that was left without a mom out of the blues, and they haven't been able to work on that or to get rid of that, and they keep it and that is the reason why I feel that they need this is the reason why I feel they need therapy or they need help, is because they keep everybody at arm's length, even sometimes their own kids, you know and I feel that it has to do with that, with their broken little boy self.
I do. I believe that too, and I'm really looking forward to one of these days. I don't know when, but one of these days on one of the shows, I look forward to having a conversation with a male that will feel free to open up and to talk about those things. So, any final words that you would like to leave?
um the only thing I think I can leave people with, and it's this, that we're not asking you, like Marlene and I are not asking you or telling you that you're broken or asking you to go get help, see someone. We're not that. We're just sharing our lives, what we've gone through, how we have become to be the women that we are today. So the only thing I guess I would leave people with is, if you need help on anything that you're going through in life, make sure that you ask for that help to the right person. so that you
Mhm.
can actually be helped. Otherwise, it's not going to be possible.
Right.
That's all.
Yeah. Well, thank you. Thank you so much for that. And I'm going to end by saying, the the most important relationship that you can have outside of your higher power, in my opinion, is your relationship that you have with yourself. And if you never get to a point where you actually like yourself, much less love yourself, you're going to make all of the rest of the relationships in your life suffer. So, tune into that relationship with yourself and do what's necessary so that you can turn that dislike, maybe that you started your life with, and then end with the liking yourself. You have just tuned into Love Marlene 411. Thank you so much for tuning in. I really appreciate each and every one of you. And if this chat has been enjoyable to you, please leave me a like, share this live stream out, and leave me a comment in the comment section below. I would really love to hear from you. And I'll see you guys on the next one.